In this tutorial, we're going to cover how to replicate an already animated object multiple times. I'm starting out with the sphere. I've already keyframed it, and I've added the graph editor to curves post infinity cycle. And doing so, I've repeated that function for the duration of my animation timeline. I'll put my playback head back at the beginning of the timeline. And with the sphere selected, I'll hold down the space bar. I'm going to go to Edit, Duplicate Special to the attributes, and I want to set it for Parent, and then Duplicate Input Graph, and I'll choose Apply. You'll notice a change in your viewport. The geometry has doubled, and probably the most important element now is to group that, and in doing so, you'll see the keyframes for the duplicate have disappeared, which means they are hidden inside the group. That will allow me to move it outside the original. Now when I drag through, I've got two replicated balls performing the same function. Now we're going to replicate an animated object that is driven by IK kinematics. It's a little bit different. I've set keyframes for the IK of this arm that I've created, and it's composed of a couple of cylinders that have been parented to the bones and then introduced to IK kinematics. And there I can see my keyframes for this function. I'm going to select all the components of this arm. I'll select the skeleton, which in turn selects the parented geometry, and then I'll shift select the IK kinematics. I'll hold down the space bar, go to Edit, Duplicate Special the attributes, and then I'll make sure it's set for parent and number of copies 1 and duplicate input graph. I'll hit apply. And as we do with the sphere, I'm going to group it. I'll hit Command G, center the pivot, and then I can move the replica out. Now there's a real advantage to grouping because now I can relocate the pivot and I can rotate that animated arm in an opposite position like so. If I needed another one, I would go back to the original that isn't grouped and select all the elements. Duplicate, hit Command G, center the pivot, and move that replica out as well. And because it's inside of a group, I can now rotate it and position it at any angle I want.